5 short films? More like 5 reasons I won't be sleeping tonight. I'm Dia Ghoul. Welcome to my channel where we have spooky talks about spooky topics. Today we will be talking about the 5 scariest short films that will be keeping you up tonight. At the time of this recording, all 5 of these short films are available to watch right here on YouTube. I don't want to waste any time, so let's get right into it. Number 5. Unedited footage of a bear. Did you like that? Did you like my chills impression? Don't worry, I promise I will not do it again. So number 5, unedited footage of a bear. This short film starts off exactly how it sounds. So we start off with unedited footage of a bear, with some people talking in the background. However, things quickly change as this footage fades away and we are met with an ad for a medication called Claradril. This ad is disguised to look like a YouTube ad. It has the little skip ad button off to the side. And I know firsthand that this has tricked a lot of people, and I just think that's a really cool detail and it's very effective. In this ad, we see a woman. I'm going to call her Donna for reasons I'll go over later. And Donna seems to be suffering from some pretty intense allergies, and she is struggling to enjoy her time at the park with her children because of these allergies. But when she takes Claradril, the world suddenly shines brighter. Suddenly it seems like she can take on the world like she's a supermom. However, as the ad goes on and we hear the narrator listing off the side effects, the many side effects, as you know if you've ever seen a medication commercial, we see Donna get into her van and start driving away without the 2 children that she was with. As she's driving, we see her get another fix of Claradril. And this scene is also when we hear the narrator voice in the background listing all the side effects start to fade away. We see Donna pass some sort of incident. We see cops everywhere, and the more we see this scene, we start to understand that this is clearly a murder scene. We see a dead body covered up in the background. We also see a man being apprehended by the police who is just absolutely freaking out. We see people in hazmat suits taking bags out of the house, presumably with body parts and such. And as Donna passes this incident, she sees a familiar sweater on the ground, which causes her to stop her car. As she investigates this sweater, she sees something in the distance. Another version of herself. But this version of Donna is pissed off that she's messing with her sweater, I guess, and charges her. So new Donna beats the ever-living hell out of old Donna, steals her car, and runs her over with it. After this, she drives away. Old Donna, battered and bloody, slowly crawls towards home. In the meantime, we see new Donna taking the old one's place, causing chaos all around the house and for the children. I guess they took the bus home, I don't know. I don't know how they got there. And she's just doing all sorts of weird, unhinged stuff. I have to admit, this scene is where they introduce my favorite part about this short film, which is this kick-ass song right here. I don't know who wrote that song, but I'll try to remember to look it up and put it in the description below. Now, we see new Donna receive a call on the phone. When she answers the phone call, she starts saying, "Donna? Donna?" repeatedly and increasingly panicked. It is pretty well agreed upon by the fans of this short film that Donna is our main character. That's why I've been calling her Donna. We don't know that for sure, but since Donna is our only significant character in this short film, I would say that that makes sense. Finally, after seemingly an entire day, old Donna makes it to her doorstep. And as we see her approach the door, in the background, we see police lights and hear police sirens. This implies to us that this was a cycle that Donna went through, the same as the incident she saw earlier. One detail I actually didn't mention is that the body we saw laying on the ground was wearing the same distinctive shoes as the man being apprehended by the police. So this tells us that he was going through some sort of doppelganger incident as well. It is also pretty well agreed upon in the community that this short film is an analogy for addiction. I'd say it was not the most subtle choice to use a prescription medication to get this point across, but using an allergy medication was a little bit more subtle, at least, because it's not a type of medication you typically think of when you think of substance abuse. This short film shows us how addiction can make you do things and act in certain ways that you would never do sober. It's almost like there's another you, and this other you is set out to destroy your life and in turn destroy yourself. Unfortunately, there was at one point a website that went with this short film. It was claradrill.com, and the reason I say unfortunately is because it does not exist anymore. I'm sure you can find it on the Wayback Machine, or Google searching, you can probably find people talking about it to find out some details. But it's hard for me to rank this short film any higher without that extra material, because I think the website in conjunction with the short film could really add to the experience and to the creep factor. The creepiest moment in this short film for me was when Donna saw her doppelganger standing in the distance and then she just suddenly charges at her. I can't lie, the thought of that scares the shit out of me. My favorite part of the short film, like I said before, was that song that they put in there. That's just such a cool song. I'm not saying that the short film is bad. Obviously, it's good to make it to the top 5, but it's just my least favorite in comparison to the others. So let's move on to number 4, Other Side of the Box. So this short film follows 2 characters, a couple called Ben and Rachel. The 2 are preparing food in the kitchen during the holiday season. We know this because we're shown Christmas trees and Christmas lights and other such things. The 2 are just having a good time together, having some banter, when there's a sudden knock on the door. They can see that it is someone named Sean. They never specify who Sean really is, but Rachel does not seem pleased at the idea of having Sean over here. So she nicely asks Ben to get the door and just pretend like she's not there. When Ben answers the door, Sean has a gift, a wrapped gift in his hand. He apologizes for how things went down before. This is never specified exactly. And then he gives Ben the gift. This also comes with a card that Ben tries to open, but Sean insists that he open the box first, and he insists that he open it there while Sean is still here. He is acting like very sketchy and just off. This seems to weird Ben out, but he does what he's asked and opens the box. Inside, he is met with a black, empty void. Just pure nothingness. Before he can ask Sean any questions, he quickly makes an exit and awkwardly apologizes as he leaves. Rachel then comes out of hiding, and together they investigate this mysterious box. They shine a flashlight into it and drop a pencil into it, but this void seems to have no bottom, no end. Rachel grabs the card, which turns out to just be a letter from Sean, and reads it out loud. The note basically says, "I'm sorry, but I needed to give it to someone. I don't have it all figured out, but I know that it can't move while you're watching it. Don't take your eyes off of it. It wants you to look away." And as Rachel is reading this note, the pencil that Ben had dropped into the box rolls up from behind him on the floor. When they turn around, they see half of a creepy man's head peeking out of the box. Now, this visual is almost like half of what makes this short film. It is so creepy, so unnerving, so something that is gonna keep me awake tonight. My God. Truly, just the way that it sits there and doesn't move and just stares at them is the creepiest goddamn thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Ben, of course, tries to call Sean on the phone, but he is sent to voicemail. And all the while, this creepy figure is staring at him menacingly. The pair decide to test looking away from the box, but only for a few seconds. They look at each other, count for a few seconds, and look back at the box. And when they do, they see that the figure's hands are now poking out of the box as well. When Rachel gets freaked out and interrogates this figure, he responds by mimicking Sean's voice, presumably repeating lines that he heard Sean say. These phrases included, "I'm sorry, I gotta go," which is something that we heard him say earlier. It also said, "Just Ben, don't let him leave the house." This makes it seem like Sean was conspiring with this box creature to try to keep Ben in the house. Well, Ben knows now that he needs to find Sean. So he decides that Rachel should stay and watch the box since it has to be watched at all times. And he is going to venture out and go try to find Sean. She hesitantly agrees. At least he gave her a weapon to protect herself with. At least he decided to be that thoughtful. So as Ben drives around trying to find Sean, he calls him on the phone repeatedly, and repeatedly being sent to voicemail. Eventually, he starts to leave a message, and during his message, he said us, which caught Sean's attention. He answers the phone finally and wants to know who us is. This guy is just devastated to find out that Rachel had really been there the whole time. And he full out panics when he discovers that Ben left her alone with the box. This is where the twist of this short film is revealed. Sean screams and clarifies to Ben, "No, you need to watch it. You cannot take your eyes off of it." Honestly, I can't lie, I sorta saw this coming a little bit, but at the same time, it's still a pretty good twist. Sean sternly warns Ben not to return to the house, but he ignores this and hangs up the phone. He returns to find the home in darkness, and Rachel and the box gone from where he left them. The faucet is running, and there's a pool of water beside Rachel's toppled chair and discarded weapon. Armed with nothing but a flashlight, he investigates the house. Opening the door to the basement, Ben calls out to Rachel. Her voice does respond, but it's clearly not her. The way she's responding seems very out of place, very improper emotion for what's going on here. It is clearly the creature from the box mimicking her voice.
Yeah? What's up?
And this is immediately clarified for us when Ben asks her where the box is, and he's met with an eerie silence. Ben investigates further and goes into a bathroom where he finds another faucet and the shower running. Here, a creepy figure, not the one from earlier, appears in the shower. Ben freaks out and tries to confront it, but it doesn't respond to him at all and doesn't move. When it does move a little bit, it scares Ben away and he runs off. As he's fleeing, we see a group of 5 silhouettes of figures on the top of the stairs. As he looks over to the side, we see yet another figure in the next room over. Unable to keep his eyes on both groups at once, the figure in the other room turns out the light, presumably sealing Ben's fate. Why I ranked this one number 4? It does really crank the creep factor up to 100, especially in comparison to unedited footage of a bear, which is on the sillier side. But I found the whole theme to be very, very confusing. I don't really know what this short film is exactly trying to tell us, though it is clearly trying to tell us something. Unedited footage of a bear was a metaphor for addiction, at least if you agree with that interpretation. This one, however, is very hard to even begin to interpret. I'd imagine it has something to do with the relationship dynamic between the 3 characters. There seems to be a lot of tension between the 3, which leads me to believe that Sean might be an ex-boyfriend of Rachel's, or at the very least a friend who had romantic feelings for her and was rejected when she got with Ben. This probably caused drama amongst the group, but I struggle very much to connect this with the box or the creature in the box or all the visuals of water. There has to be a connection there, but I just can't seem to find it. The closest I could come was I could find maybe a theme of distrust in the context of Ben has to constantly watch this box, has to constantly watch this creature or everything will go wrong. And obviously, if you're distrustful of your partner, you might constantly monitor them and display behaviors that are not really healthy, might be actually destructive to the relationship. And I know that love triangles can definitely exacerbate this. So I'm sorry, I don't really know how to analyze this for you, and that's the main reason that it's at number 4. Number 3, Callies' last review. So this video is made to appear as if it's a YouTube video, just filmed by, a beauty influencer. So we start off with the intro for Callies' beauty YouTube channel. She introduces herself to the audience and promises product reviews that will change your life. Callie tells us that this is her first sponsored review, and she is reviewing a chemical peel by a brand called Sue Skincare Essentials. She tells the audience that Sue is a startup brand who reached out to her to initiate this review and sponsorship. In this before portion, we see her very much picking apart her appearance. She's just kind of pointing out like, oh, I have fine lines here, when I make an expression, see these lines, they're terrible. And she thinks that this chemical peel will solve all these issues. Well, issues. Next, we see Callie applying this chemical peel. She remarks on the very strong chemical scent, and we can see her kind of like wincing while she's applying it, as if she is greatly struggling to do so. There is a jump cut, and now we see that Callie's face is bright red and inflamed, and then she tells us that this is only after 1.5 minutes of application. To any normal person, this reaction would be horrifying, but Callie just kind of overlooks it, and instead of washing it off, she moves on to the second step of the treatment, which is a neutralizing cream. I really like the small details here that add to the authentic YouTuber feel, like when she is struggling with the bottle and just the general fonts and music they choose between shots. It is very effective in my opinion and makes it really fun to watch. So Callie continues to be careless. When she uses up all the neutralizer because her face is so uncomfortable, and she contacts the company and they tell her that coconut oil is similar, I guess, so she goes out to get some. But she is exposing herself to very bright sun, and she even tells us on camera, oh yeah, you're not supposed to go out in the sun with this treatment, but it's okay. It is very alarming to see her ignoring these clear medical signs and slapping more products on her face and refusing to seek treatment. After only 10 hours of application, Callie's face starts to flare up into patchy scabs, almost as if her skin is starting to burn off. But of course, Callie just explains this away, insisting that this is a normal part of the process. The next day, Callie comes on camera saying that she doesn't want to sugarcoat things, and then proceeds to sugarcoat the fact that her entire face is practically rotting off. Just her whole face is red and scabbed and raw. A piece of her skin falls off, and this is just horrifying to watch. At the end of this clip, she says, this is all going to be worth it. I'm not so sure about that, Callie, but whatever you say. In the next shot, Callie is lying on the bed, her head is wrapped in bandages, and her entire face is completely raw, scabbing, leaking blood. She informs us that Sue Skincare no longer wants to work with her. And rather than being angry at them for this product destroying her face, she is devastated by this and practically just begs to get back into their good graces. Rather than blaming the product or the brand for what has happened, she is just blaming her sensitive skin. I found this scene so incredibly sad. Like, I know that this is a horror short film, I know that it's fictional, but still, it just so closely mirrors how far people will go for validation and how far people will go for companies that just don't care about them. She insists that she's going to keep making this video and show us the final reveal. The final reveal scene starts off with a stereotypical YouTube title card with, frilly text and some peppy, happy music. This is just so far off tone from the rest of this, because along to this music, we see Callie cut away all the dead, burnt, gross pieces of skin. Now left with nothing but exposed muscle tissue, she smiles for the camera as the words "brand new skin" flash on the screen in cutesy font. Well, I don't know if I'd call that skin, but I guess she's not entirely wrong. Now we break away from Callie's YouTube channel with a text over explaining to us what happened to her. It is revealed to us that Callies' channel had only 8 subscribers. This whole time she had been referencing her subscribers and saying she was doing all of this for her subscribers, and just kind of gave the general implication that she had a larger subscriber base than 8 people. Hey, I'm not one to talk. When I was first researching all this, I had only 8 subscribers. Now I have 15. I'm a god. But Callie clearly put way too much weight on these 8 subscribers. She became way too infatuated with the idea of internet validation. Then we are hit with the biggest bomb possible. We are told that no email correspondence between Callie and a Sue Skincare Essentials ever existed. In fact, there was no evidence that a Sue Skincare Essentials ever existed at all. But in her email correspondences, they did find evidence of an order for DIY product packaging and 100% trichloric acid. I may have pronounced that wrong, but you still get the point, dude. She ordered DIY product packaging and some straight up acid that can probably burn your entire face off. So really, this entire thing was a ruse to try to get attention and validation on the internet. That information hit me like a truck and made me like this short film about twice as much as I would have otherwise. I rate this number 3 because it is a very solid horror short film, and that little bit at the end just made this cross right into awesome territory. I really love this short film, but we still have 2 more to go over. Number 2, The Chair. Now this one's a bit of a doozy. It is the longest running short film out of all of these. I believe it was like 24 minutes long or something like that. Our opening scene shows us a lone chair, like a greenish bluish chair, sitting on the curb by itself. A car drives past it and then backs up. A guy comes out. He is our main character and his name is Reese. Reese picks up the chair, puts it in his trunk, and drives away. During this, we see a creepy old man in the background. That does have significance, but we'll get to him later. We see Reese bring home the chair along with a bouquet of flowers to celebrate he and his girlfriend's 6-month anniversary. His girlfriend Julie arrives and asks him about the chair. We hear a clock ticking in the background as the two have an increasingly tense conversation about this chair. She's just acting really strange and just seems to have a huge problem with this chair right off the bat. She insists that it's old and creepy and she can't sleep in the same room with it, so it has to go. But Reese tries to tell her that he likes the chair, he wants to keep it. But Julie puts her foot down and says, "Get that chair the hell out of here, dude." Just as Reese is about to fold in this argument, he just appears back on the curb, sitting in the chair. He is very disoriented and freaked out by this. He doesn't know how he got there. He doesn't remember bringing the chair back. Stunned, Reese just gets in his car and drives home and tries to forget about it. This time, however, when he arrives home, Julie has a surprise for him. Lo and behold, it is the exact same chair that he had just abandoned. I really do appreciate how openly freaked out Reese was by this. I find that a lot more realistic than films tend to be. Usually they just kind of like stew on it and let it ponder in their mind. But Reese had a very realistic reaction here. I know for sure I'd be shitting bricks. Reese insists that she take the chair back, but she doesn't seem to even recall their argument from before. And this time she likes the chair and she wants to keep it. I felt like I was going crazy when I watched this because it's almost like they had the exact same argument but in reverse. At first I thought this would become like an endless cycle, like an endless loop type of deal. And it was not that. Like no matter what you're guessing, it's not gonna be that. Suddenly, Julie's entire tune changes and she says, "Fine, we can keep the chair." Almost as if she had transported back to the other argument they were having. Reese, totally confused, is like trying to figure out what's going on. And the more confused he gets, the more angry she gets. During this strange conversation, it's revealed that Reese did in fact bring this chair home. But that was a week ago. For us as the viewers and for Reese, this has all played out as if it were the same day, possibly even within an hour. Reese finally believes her when he looks across the room and sees the bouquet of flowers that he got her. But now, they're dried up and dead, and clearly about a week old. He tries to tell Julie that he is blacked out a week's worth of time, and she's not having it. She just doesn't even believe him. According to her, he has displayed a range of unsavory behaviors in the past week, including being racist and threatened to kill somebody by beating him to death with a rock. Because of everything going on, Julie assumes that he's using this blackout thing as an excuse to dodge responsibility. Reese blames all of this strange behavior on the chair. But Julie, however, blames it all on Reese. In the night, Reese wakes up to see the chair in the corner of the room, facing him. Rightfully creeped out by this, he turns the chair around and tries to go back to sleep. But when he opens his eyes again, there is an old man sitting in the chair. If this were any other movie or short film, you would expect the old man to just disappear suddenly, but he doesn't. Julie wakes up, and she sees him too. As the old man laughs and waves, Julie lets out a blood-curdling scream. As far as I understand, just screaming like this is a talent in its own when it comes to acting. No amount of description can do justice just to how unnerving and creepy this scene is, and to what happens next after this blood-curdling scream. And now the old dude disappears, after scarring me and Reese. It's safe to say Reese does not sleep for the rest of the night, and I wouldn't either. Julie goes about her morning like nothing happened. She asks Reese how he slept last night, and asks him if he had any bad dreams. When he explains seeing the creepy old man, Julie responds,
"Dead Man Franklin? He comes with the chair."
Then Dead Man Franklin kisses Julie on the cheek and takes a seat in the chair, which is now in the kitchen for some reason. This chair has a great way of just following Reese around. Julie and Dead Man Franklin converse with one another, talking about how much Reese has forgotten. He begs Reese not to forget him as he bashes himself in the head with a rock. Sound familiar? And then Julie says,
"Reese, you're dying of Alzheimer's, but you keep forgetting you have it."
What? Now, after this, everything snaps back to normal. Dead Man Franklin disappears, but the conversation still goes on with no order or cohesion. Now, this is where things really start to go off the rails and become harder to interpret. Reese goes in the laundry room as there's a knock on the door, and he finds a corpse in the laundry room. Of course, just at this moment, the men at the door announce that they are the police. Armed with a warrant, he has no choice but to let the officer and detective into his house. The detective takes a seat in the chair. They question Reese about the disappearance of the same man that he threatened to beat to death with a rock. And at this point, it's pretty clear that that's who the body in the laundry room belongs to. Then the detective starts to say some really odd and unhinged things, likely at the influence of the chair. Even the other officer tries to get him to chill out, but instead he does the only rational thing and pulls his gun on Reese. But he decides not to shoot him, and they move on to search the rest of the house. Reese takes this opportunity to move the corpse to another room. I'm not entirely sure what that's supposed to do, because they haven't searched that room yet either, but okay, Reese. As they interrogate Reese about the body, the totally sane detective just shoots himself, and then the officer points his gun at Reese, as if Reese were the one with a weapon. Suddenly, Dead Man Franklin, Julie, and the dead guy, his name is Fence, emerge from another room and calmly take a seat. This scares the hell out of Reese and the officer. Again, I'm really kind of appreciating that kind of realism here. Dead Man Franklin has a bullet wound in his chest, mirroring the injury that the detective has. As Dead Man Franklin says bye, everyone disappears, and Reese just kind of comes to with a hammer in his hand. The calendar shows us that 3 weeks have passed. Again, in Reese's time, it's been like at most 3 days. He then finds candles arranged around the lined up bodies of Julie, Fence, the officer, and the detective. And in the center is the chair with the dead bouquet of roses on it. Behind the chair stands Dead Man Franklin. Dead Man Franklin goes on this really interesting monologue about the suffering of life and the euphoria of death. He welcomes Reese to join the others in death as the camera zooms in on the chair. I am unsure how I feel about the fact that they just flat out said it right in the short film, but this short film seems to represent Alzheimer's disease. In my personal interpretation, I think that the chair itself represents the disease itself. I think Dead Man Franklin represents old Reese. The Reese that we are seeing is the Reese stuck in his memories, the Reese that he remembers, not necessarily the Reese that he is now. Julie, I think, represents not only a partner, but just the general loved ones of those suffering with Alzheimer's disease. There also seem to be parts of her that represent parts of Reese, which I think is normal because this all seems to be a horrific memory loop that he is stuck in. I don't think that any of this stuff is happening in real time. His memories are becoming jumbled. He does not remember the present at all. He is stuck in a loop of suffering until he is embraced by the sweet release of death. The calendar showing the 3-week time period is really meant to represent a much, much longer period of time. And yeah, this short film is incredibly scary, incredibly creepy. The acting is incredibly well done. The underlying interpretation is incredibly sad. I love, love, love The Chair. And to be honest, I had a really, really hard time deciding if I was going to rank this number 2 or number 1. Really, it just kind of comes down to personal preference. If you like a more serious short film that's really gonna creep you out, I would recommend The Chair. For those who like a little more goofy surrealism, I would recommend number 1, Great Choice. Great Choice is actually extremely similar to number 5, Unedited Footage of a Bear. Except, obviously, I think that this one was just a little bit more well done. For my personal tastes. It's totally fine if you prefer number 5. We'll get a little bit more into those similarities later, but let's talk about the short film. We open with a Red Lobster commercial advertising a deal for 30 shrimp for $10.99. A very not creepy premise to start with, but trust me, it gets pretty awesome. We see a waitress remarking on the impressive amount of shrimp, and then we see a waiter taking a customer's order. Of course, she orders the 30 shrimp for $10.99, to which the waiter responds, "Great choice." Then we see a bunch of images of appetizing pictures of shrimp, and we end the commercial with the waitress from the beginning telling us that children eat too for only $2.99. We see a happy child eating off of his plate of shrimp. The commercial replays again, and everything seems to go the same until we get to the customer ordering her shrimp. This time, she seems to forget her lines. The waiter glares at her, and the background music just plays on a loop until she remembers her line. She delivers this line unconvincingly, causing the waiter to kind of also deliver his line unconvincingly in a sort of angry way. This is like a subtle warning to the customer to get with the program. The rest of the ad plays as normal. On the third play, we start to hear subtle errors in the narration.
At Fred Lobster for a limited time.
And when the waiter asks for the customer's order, she asks,
"Do I say 30 shrimp, please?"
To which the waiter says,
Great choice.
Now we start to see other characters going off script in just about the most terrifying way possible. Even the narrator has some things to say.
Lemon pepper shrimp, and you have everything to fear. That's
At the end of the commercial, this time the child doesn't look so happy, and he hesitates to eat his food. On the fourth play, the commercial seems to have broken entirely.
Red Lobster.
Now, when the waiter approaches her, she finally voices her concern and her confusion. She doesn't know who she is or how she got here. The waiter ignores this, just waiting for her to deliver her line. When she doesn't, he first lightly slaps her and then viciously punches her. Seriously, just punches her lights out. The music and narration grind to a halt, and the TV/VHS filter that we've been seeing over the commercial this whole time is gone. At this point, she has fully broken the immersion of the commercial, and we are finally starting to sneak a peek into reality. The waiter then pours hot boiling gravy on her face, torturing her into saying her lines by force. Now, the waitress is visibly nervous, and the child refuses to eat his food. This shows that all the characters in this commercial are conscious entities that interact with one another. They are clearly trapped, like within this commercial. We don't know what's trapped them or who, but it seems that they are all very, very afraid of the consequences of going off script. The fifth play shows the waitress still distressed from what she saw earlier.
Wow, that's a lot of shrimp.
This is the first time that we see her falter during this opening scene. And on top of this, our narrator voice is having a stroke.
Enjoy thermy shrimp for just 10-10-10.
This time, our trapped customer is prepared. She throws a hot drink in the waiter's face and beats his ass. All the while, he keeps delivering his line, pretty much pleading her to do the same. As we see a background extra stand up with the chair still like attached to their body, the waiter seems to freak out and just skips her line entirely, saying, "Great choice." He does this so that he can continue the commercial, so that things won't keep going wrong. Now the commercial loops through repeatedly, but the waiter just keeps skipping her lines to keep things moving along. This causes the commercial to rapidly speed up and warp from its original script. The narrator seems to suddenly be helping our customer now, briefly filling her in on the situation.
Die forever unless you stop him from saying his line.
So she does the perfectly rational thing and stabs the waiter in the throat and cuts out his tongue to stop him from saying his lines. So at this point, I was pretty convinced I knew where this was going. So what I expected to happen was that our main character would come to and realize that she's just at a normal Red Lobster, and she just killed her waiter. I expected everyone to get up and stare at her like she's a goddamn maniac, but that is not what happens. Honestly, I don't even begin to know how to explain what happens, so I'll just show you.
And kids get shrimp.
With our famous fly shrimp. Sucko Sam Mam Mam. Lemon Tub Tub.
Now that our customer broke the universe, she is finally able to escape the Red Lobster commercial. When she runs out the door, she stumbles directly into an AA meeting. The group welcomes her with open arms, giving her a 30 days sober token. As she's told that she made a great choice, she sees the waiter pounding on the window from the outside. The group closes their meeting with a mantra about staying sober as the customer fixates on the pounding at the window. Whether the waiter wants her out or he wants to get in where she is completely up to interpretation. Speaking of interpretation, many years ago when I very first found this short film, I found it through an analysis video that another YouTuber made. Somehow when I was researching this, I could not find even a trace of this video's existence. I feel like it had to have existed because that's how I found the short film. I really wanted to go back and watch it so I could reference it for my interpretation, but sadly I don't think it's there anymore. If anyone else knows the video I'm talking about, leave it in the comments down below. But this video went over how this short film represents addiction. So not only does this connect to unedited footage of a bear in regards to it being a person stuck inside of a commercial, but they also both likely represent addiction. Great Choice, however, is much less clear-cut about this than unedited footage of a bear. My personal interpretation is that this is more so about the cycle of addiction rather than the addiction itself, because we see our character in a constant hellscape loop that she can't seem to find her way out of. She is not alone stuck in this loop. There are other people also stuck in this loop, and they're all equally terrified to try to get out. You can tell that the waiter doesn't necessarily want to hurt our main character. He doesn't want to deal with the consequences of her going off script. He doesn't want to deal with the consequences of her breaking the cycle. I'm sure that there are a ton of little metaphors and things that I just missed, but I still think that this is a pretty solid analogy for the cycle of addiction. But to be completely honest, I just chose it as number 1 because I think it's so freaking cool. It creeped me out, but on such a fun level, you know what I mean? I had a great time watching this. I have a great time sharing this with my friends. I'll show this to pretty much anybody who will watch it. Great choice is like a fever dream that I never want to wake up from. And I would love to find some more short films, and I mean, hell, maybe I'll find one that tops this. And that was the 5 scariest short films to keep you up tonight. Are there any other short films that I'm unaware of that you think I should watch? If so, please mention them in the comments. With that said, I'm Dia Ghoul, and I hope you had a spooky time. Like and subscribe if you want.